Okay, taking the same rules that we learned when solving 1 and 2-step inequalities, we're going to apply the same thing to multi-step inequalities. The idea is there's just an extra step. So when it comes to a number line, just remember if it is less than or greater than, we use open circle. If it's less than or equal to or greater than or equal to, we use closed circle. We are going to talk about interval notation, which is a way to write the inequalities, so I'll explain that as we go. Just remember that parentheses means not included or open circle, and bracket means included or closed circle, so I'll explain in a minute, okay? Okay, so when I'm solving a multi-step, it means there's more than one step to get to solve. So I'm going to keep it pretty plain and simple. The first step we need to do here is to distribute. 4 times x is 4x. 4 times positive 3 is positive 12, is greater than negative 24. Now it becomes a simple 2-step, so I have the inverse of adding 12 is to subtract 12 to both sides. So I have 4x is greater than, because the 12's cancel, negative 24 minus 12 is negative 36. I'm going to divide by 4. Dividing by 4 does not flip this sign. It stays greater than. Negative 36 divided by 4 is negative 9. On this number line, remember, since it's greater than, it's an open circle on negative 9, and I'm looking for which side has values that are greater than negative 9, and greater than would be to the right. Now, to write this in interval notation, okay, what I like to do is use the number line as a visual. It helps me write my interval notation, okay? So if I look from left to right, I look at negative 9. It is an open circle because it's not included, so I'm going to use parentheses. And then it's going to go on forever and ever and ever and ever to the right, which means in order to write that, I don't want to list every single number in all of the world, so we are going to use what we call infinity. That means forever to the positive side. And anytime I use infinity, we're going to use parentheses, because parentheses, if I use a bracket, that means it closes off somewhere. Whereas parentheses, if I want to go forever and ever, I can't close it off. So there you go. Okay, continuing this, number 2. Okay, I got to distribute first, so I'm going to bring down this x. Negative 3 times x is negative 3x. Negative 3 times positive 2 is negative 6, is greater than 4. Then I look to combine like terms, so x and negative 3x. 1x minus 3x is negative 2x. Minus 6 is greater than 4. Then I would add 6 to both sides, so I have negative 2x is greater than 4 plus 6 is 10. Then I would divide by negative 2. Since I divided by a negative, it flips this symbol to less than, and 10 divided by negative 2 is negative 5. On my number line, okay, it is less than, so I know it's going to be an open circle on negative 5. I'm looking for which side has values that are less than negative 5, which would be to the left. When I do my interval notation, I'm going to read this number line and literally write what I see. So if I look from the left, it went forever and ever to the left. Forever and ever to the left is negative infinity, okay? And we use parentheses because I can't close it off. It goes on forever. And then if I look to the right, it stops at negative 5. And since it's open circle, that means it's not included. I also include parentheses. Okay, continuing this. I distribute first, so I bring down 7x. Negative 2 times x is negative 2x. Negative 2 times negative 4 is positive 8, is less than or equal to negative 2. I look for like terms, so 7x minus 2x is 5x, plus 8 is less than or equal to negative 2. Then I do sad maps, so I take care of adding 8. The inverse of that is to subtract 8 to both sides. So I have 5x is less than or equal to negative 2 minus 8 is negative 10. Then I would, let me copy it, divide by 5. I did not divide by negative, so it stays less than or equal to. Negative 10 divided by 5 is negative 2. So it's a closed circle on negative 2, and I'm looking for values that are less than negative 2, which would mean to the left. If I read this from left to right, this tells me it goes on forever to the left, so that's negative infinity, horrible infinity. Parentheses, because I can't close it off. And if I look to the right, it stops at negative 2. And since it's a closed circle, that means it's included, so I put a bracket. Number 4, distribute first. Negative 8 times x is negative 8x. Negative 8 times negative 1 is positive 8. Minus x is less than or equal to negative 28. I look for like terms, so I have negative 8x minus x is negative 9x plus 8 is less than or equal to negative 28. The inverse of adding 8 is to subtract 8. Negative 9x is less than or equal to negative 28 minus 28 is negative 36. Then I divide by negative 9. Since I divided by a negative, it flips this sign, so it becomes greater than or equal to. Negative 36 divided by negative 9 is positive 4. It is a closed circle on positive 4. I'm looking for values of which side are greater than 4, and the right side are numbers greater than 4. Since I read it from left to right, furthest left is a positive 4. It is a closed circle. That means it's included, which means I put a bracket. And it goes on forever and ever to the right, so I do in positive infinity, and I put parentheses because you cannot close off infinity. Okay, continuing that for the rest of these examples. Okay, still multi-step. So on number 5, there's nothing to distribute, but if you remember our steps from before, we distribute, which there's not here. We look for any like terms, which there isn't on either side. And then we move the variable. So we are so used to seeing the variable on the left side, so I'm going to move the negative 2x over there. So I have negative 2x, the opposite of that is to add 2x to both sides. 6x plus 2x is 8x, plus 1 is less than 9. And now it becomes a simple two-step. So then the inverse of adding 1 is to subtract 1. 8x is less than 9 minus 1, which is 8. I would divide by 8 to both sides. It did not divide by negative, so it stays less than. 8 divided by 8 is positive 1. I put an open circle because it's just less than on 1. And I look for values where x is less than 1. The only values that are less than 1 are to the left. And since I read it from left to right, the furthest left, it goes on forever and ever and ever to the left. So that means negative infinity. Parentheses because you can't close it off. And then to the right it stops at 1, and since it's an open circle, that means not included, which means parentheses is also on the 1. Number 6, there's no distributing, there's no combining like terms, so I have to move the variables. We are so used to seeing the variable on the left side, so I'm going to move this 5x over there. To move 5x, the opposite of positive 5x is to subtract 5x to both sides. 2x minus 5x is negative 3x, minus 1 is less than or equal to. Those 5x's cancel, equals 20. Now it becomes a simple two-step. So the inverse of subtracting 1 is to add 1 to both sides. So I have negative 3x is less than or equal to 20 plus 1 is 21. Divide by negative 3. Since I did divide by negative, it flips from less than or equal to greater than or equal to. 21 divided by negative 3 is negative 7. On a number line, this is a closed circle on negative 7. I look for values where x is greater than negative 7, and the values where x is greater than negative 7 is to the right. If I read it from left to right, it starts on negative 7. It is a closed circle, so that means included, which means I do a bracket. It goes on forever and ever to the right, so that means infinity, positive infinity, and it's parentheses because you can't close off forever. Number 7, there is just distributing here, so I'm going to bring down the 3. I distribute negative 1. Most people forget that that is a negative 1 in front of the parentheses. Negative 1 times 2x is negative 2x. Negative 1 times negative 7 is positive 7, is less than or equal to, and I'm just going to bring this down because it doesn't have any distributing. The only thing I can combine is over here on the left side, 3 and positive 7. So I have 10 minus 2x is less than or equal to 34 minus 6x. Now we want to move the variables to the left because we're so used to seeing it on the left. So I'm going to move this negative 6x, and the opposite of negative 6x is to add 6x to both sides. So I have 10, negative 2x plus 6x is plus 4x is less than or equal to 34. I'm running out of room. Now, before I can divide by 4, I have to take care of this 10. The opposite of positive 10 is to subtract 10. So I have 4x is less than or equal to 34 minus 10 is 24. Now I can divide by 4. I did not divide by a negative, so it stays less than or equal to 24 divided by 4 is 6. It is a closed circle on 6, and I look for values where x is less than 6, which is to the left. Now I read it from left to right. From the left, it goes on forever and ever and ever, so that's negative infinity. And I cannot close off negative infinity, so it's parentheses. And then it stops at 6, and it's a closed circle, so that's a bracket, because it's included. Okay, a few more questions, same old practice. I distribute first, so I have negative 3 times x is negative 3x. Negative 3 times positive 2 is minus 6. I bring down this negative 3x because it wasn't included in the parentheses, is less than 2x, that's plus 18. Now I look for like terms, so on the left here I have negative 3x minus 3x is negative 6x minus 6 is less than 2x plus 18. Then I want to move the variables to one side, so I'm going to move this 2x over, which is the opposite of positive 2x is to subtract 2x. Negative 6x minus 2x is negative 8x. Minus 6 is less than. Those cancel is 18. Then it becomes a simple two-step. Before I can divide by negative 8, I need to take care of the subtraction. The inverse of subtracting 6 is to add 6 to both sides. So I have negative 8x is less than 18 plus 6 is 24. Then I divide by negative 8. Since I divided by a negative, it flips the less than to greater than. 24 divided by negative 8 is negative 3. It's an open circle on negative 3. I'm looking for values where x is greater than negative 3, which is to the right. If I read it from left to right, it starts at negative 3. It is an open circle, so it is parentheses because it's not included. And it goes forever and ever to the right, which means positive infinity. Positive infinity means parentheses because it cannot be closed off. Last two questions. First, I distribute, and I need to distribute on both sides here, so we will definitely run out of room. But 5x, I'm going to distribute the negative 3. Negative 3 times x is negative 3x. Negative 3 times positive 6 is negative 18. Is greater than or equal to 8, I'm going to bring down. I'm going to distribute negative 1 on the right side. Negative 1 times positive x is negative 1x. Negative 1 times negative 7 is positive 7. I want to combine like terms on both sides here. So on the left side, 5x minus 3x is 2x minus 18. Oops. Over here on the right side, I want to combine 8 and 7. 8 plus 7 is 15 minus 1x because nothing combines. Then I want to move the variables over to the left. So I'm going to move this negative 1x, which is to opposite is plus 1x. So I have 2x plus 1x is 3x minus 18 is greater than or equal to 15. Now, before I can divide by 3, I need to take care of the subtraction. The inverse of subtraction is to add, so I'm going to add 18 to both sides. So I have 3x is greater than or equal to 15 plus 18 is 33. Then I divide by 3. I did not divide by negative, so it stays greater than or equal to 33 divided by 3 is 11. It's going to be a closed circle on 11. And since I'm looking for values that are x is greater than 11, I'm going to go to the right. Then I read it from left to right. The furthest left it goes is positive 11. It is a closed circle, so it is a bracket because it is included. Then it goes forever and ever to the right, which means positive infinity. And since it is infinity, it is parentheses because it does not get closed off. Do better than me. Oh, horrible. Okay. Last but not least, and looks like definitely the longest, is to distribute first. Negative 1 is being distributed over here. Negative 1 times 3x is negative 3x. Negative 1 times positive 3 is negative 3. Minus 2x is greater than. Negative 4 times x is negative 4x. Negative 4 times negative 2 is plus 8. And that does not apply to the minus 2, so I bring that down. Then I take care of any like terms. So on the left, I have negative 3x minus 2x. Negative 3x minus 2x is negative 5x minus 3 is greater than. On the right side, nothing combines with negative 4x, so I bring it down. But positive 8 minus 2 is positive 6. Then I want to move the variables over to the left. So in order to move negative 4x, I do the opposite, which is to add 4x to both sides. Negative 5x plus 4x is negative 1x. Minus 3 is greater than. Those cancel, so it is 6. Then before I can divide by negative 1, I need to take care of minus 3. Minus 3, the inverse is to add 3. So negative 1x is greater than 6 plus 3 is 9. I need to divide by negative 1. As soon as I divided by that negative, it flipped greater than to less than. 9 divided by negative 1 is negative 9. It is an open circle on negative 9. And I'm looking for values where x is less than negative 9, which means to the left. If I read it from left to right, it goes forever and ever to the left, which means negative infinity, and parentheses because you cannot close it off. And then it stops at negative 9, but since it's an open circle, that means it's not included, which means we put parentheses, not a bracket.